So we're never without drama here at TheStable.ca. What a weekend. What a weekend. Anyway, obviously we have lots to talk about over the next little while. We decided to make the videos Tuesday so we could talk about the weekend, talk about Sunday's races. And we had a big Sunday at Georgian Downs. Gives us a chance to reflect on the weekend and digest what took place. And there was a lot of digestion this week. Obviously, the news of Lawmaker came out. You know, first and foremost, I have a lot of people that message me, and they were concerned. They were concerned that I somehow made this knee-jerk decision, to book off Lawmaker just on a whim. I was gonna book off Lawmaker just because, or maybe because people on social media were pressuring me. Let me be very, very, very clear to the people that don't know this yet. I'm not easily bullied or pushed around. I've been driving horses a long time, training horses a long time. Did have a little stint in politics. So if you think that my skin somehow thinned over the years, you'd be incorrect. If you remember back when Lawmaker was first starting, James McDonald was down to qualify the horse. This was a horse that I wanted my brother to drive all year for a number of reasons. And he was injured, and he made a break on James. And from there, it was, listen, why don't you just drive the colt? I drove him. I think I did a good job. We raced him in the big race up here, and then was third in the Beal at 75-1. Keep that in mind. And then he made a break in Philadelphia. Not a big deal. I don't think that was a big deal. It was unfortunate. You know, I think it was money left on the table, but it wasn't the end of the world. And then Mother Nature stepped in and kept me from getting to New Jersey to drive him, and Dave Miller drove him. And to be very clear, from the outset, I'm a big believer in fate to begin with. Always have. You know, when I look back at the position I'm in right now in my life, both professionally and personally, it's hard to believe that I got there on my own. So I am a believer in fate, but fate didn't make the decision either. Rest assured, if I had driven Lawmaker in the mud, I would be driving Lawmaker in the Hambletonian. The whole problem is that one, I thought I was doing pretty good with Lawmaker, but at the same time, let's be clear. Let's call a spade a spade. I'm a big boy. You're all adults. Dave Miller is a better driver than me. Always has been, always will be. And as I said in my article that I wrote, a lot more than 40 pounds separates Dave Miller and me as a driver. So if Dave Miller says he'd be happy to drive the horse after the race, what grounds would I have not to let him? Yeah, I own a significant chunk of Lawmaker, my wife and I do. And I had the backing of other people that own bigger chunks of the horse. I could have pushed myself into driving Lawmaker easily. And for the most part, I think everybody would have been happy. But that's not my job anymore. My job is not a professional driver anymore. And I'm okay with that. And I have been for quite some time. I spent 2 decades driving horses. And I made, I don't know where it went to, but I made a lot of money driving horses, won a lot of races, had some success, I've driven in the Breeders' Crown and the North American Cup, things like that. I've been there. I haven't won them, but I've been there. And I hope you don't think for a second that I was somehow scared to drive. I drive against drivers in every jurisdiction of North America that I know and don't know on a regular basis. I won't be bullied on the track. I won't be pushed around, and I drive the horses against everybody the same everywhere. I'm aggressive. I put the horses in a position to win best I can, and I think we've done pretty good. I didn't realize it until somebody sent me a message today. My driving average this year in the United States of America is just a tick under 400. You know, we've made close to $400,000 in the U.S. in just over a month. Maybe a little more. Well, definitely more after the weekend, last weekend. So for those of you thinking I was scared or I was concerned, rest assured that had nothing to do with it. It had to do with making the right choices. And for you out there that don't understand, and I'd said this before, we are in sales. I am in sales. I run a fractional ownership stable, and the only way to get people involved is to think that, one, we do a good professional job, and two, we look out for everybody's money the best that we can. I've said that from day one, but some people maybe really believe that I wasn't serious about that. Maybe it was a make-work program for Anthony McDonald's beleaguered driving career. I don't know, but you can be sure it isn't. What I say is what I mean, and when I step away and look at it, if Dave Miller is willing to drive Lawmaker, why wouldn't he? The only reason he wouldn't is that for some reason I just wanted to. And if Anthony McDonald wasn't the guy standing in front of you, if Anthony McDonald was the everyday driver on Lawmaker, right, and he wasn't me, and you look down the list and you said, okay, who are we going to get to give us the best shot of winning the Hambletonian? It's not Anthony McDonald. And, you know, generally, in my experience in life, you know, the right decisions you have to make in tough circumstances are usually difficult ones. They're not ones that are made easily, and they're not knee-jerk reactions. And this was the opposite of a knee-jerk reaction. It was the culmination of a lot of deep thought and a lot of a lot of soul searching for quite some time. Now, in regards to White Tiger, that's a different situation. When we're talking about 2-year-olds that are learning, 2-year-olds that are in high stress situations for the first time in their life, then yeah, I think having the familiarity of somebody behind you on a regular basis helps their confidence, helps their ease their stress level, in which every time you lower their stress level, they absorb more information, they learn quicker, they become better horses faster. That's why having professional drivers drive your horses, or at least drivers that do a good job with young horses at the start, it's important. And I was never ever saddled with with people saying I was good for babies. I was always an aggressive driver, but I always took care of my own horses because I knew what they were capable of and I knew what they weren't capable of, and I drove them accordingly. And I think it shows. My driving average might be 400 in the United States. That's because those are our horses. I know what they're capable of. I know what they can do, and I put them in a position to do it, healthy, sound, and ready to go. They will, and they do, and they have. So for White Tiger, he's a very quirky horse, and I know him very well. Him and I get along really, really well together, and I'll be driving White Tiger on Hambo Day because I think it's what's best for the horse, not what's best for Anthony. And, that was never a consideration in my mind anyway. So I just thought it was important to put those things to rest. I know I didn't send an email out to you guys before I let everybody in the real world know what I was doing, but it was a tough decision, and it was one that I was nudged in that direction, obviously, from, as I said, from Mother Nature, but it was the right decision, and I certainly have no regrets, and I doubt I will. So David Miller will be driving Lawmaker in the Hambletonian. I will be driving White Tiger in the Houghton, and hopefully we win them both. That would be great, and I'll be perfectly fine with that. So with that to rest, we're going to move on and talk to some other things that took place this weekend. Probably one of the most underreported achievements was Oso Pine winning the Ohio State Fair Breeders' Race in Ohio at Georgian Downs. Convincing win. If you watch the replay closely, I tried to kick the earplugs like 3 times in the last turn. They wouldn't come out. What happens is sometimes if the grooms aren't paying attention, they'll put the earplugs on. They'll leave them on to warm up. And they'll change the equipment on the horse's head. She put the head halter over top of the earplug string. Now that's important because I can't deploy the earplugs when the string is wrapped under the head halter. So I knew what was going on. After the 3rd time, I knew what was going on, and the horse was, I panicked for a split second. I'm like, Jesus, But I knew there was nobody around me, and the horse was clearly a winner. So Tapped him in the tail a few times down lane. He drove away and he won easily with the earplugs in. 1:57.3. Now you might say it wasn't a fast mile. It was a full second almost faster than both the other divisions. So here we had a colt that now has 2 wins and a second in 3 major stake races in Ohio. And he got a tiny little couple of sentences at the bottom of a write-up somewhere. So a little disappointed. I think White Tiger deserved, or not White Tiger, sorry, Oso Pine deserved to be talked about. That was a hell of a mile, and he's a hell of a horse. And I think what we're looking at is we have some of the best trotters and pacers in Ohio. We have Oso Pine, West 52nd. Yes, finished second in 58. Huge improvement for him again. Twinsburg, the pacing filly side. See You in Tuscany on the pacing colt side. So See You in Tuscany is yet to face defeat in Ohio. Twinsburg was only beat at, a head, a neck, a nose in her last outing out of the 7.5 mile track. So those horses, those 5 horses in Ohio are legit powerful animals, and really, really proud of what they're doing in Ohio. Then we take a look at probably one of the most interesting accomplishments I've been a part of in a while was a qualifier. Everybody paid attention to Lazarus. That was qualifying in the Meadowlands, as they should have. He's an impressive animal. 2 qualifiers later, I went with White Tiger, and I got away last in the qualifier. And keep in mind, and Andrew had asked me after. He said, "Why'd you get away last with him?" I don't want to give this horse any room. His voices that he hears from time to time are subsiding, and I don't want to give him any pause for aggression, because he can be a handful. If you remember back in his first baby race, he was so impressive in that 1:57.4 qualifier. He was a runaway all the way to the first turn. I don't want that. Good horses don't do that, and I don't want to see him doing that. His last 3 or 4 miles, I was able to keep him off the gate a little bit, and then take him off the gate and keep him in check, keep him quiet. And then when I asked him, oh my God almighty, you need to go back and watch the qualifier for White Tiger. When I moved him, it was just past the 5/8. This horse laid his legs as fast to the ground as he could for 3/8 of a mile under the wire and into the turn. Horses don't do that. They just don't do that. Horses can't carry top speed for that long. None that I've driven. Anyway, I'm sure they're out there. I mean, Lazarus, I'm sure can. Lots of horses can. But rarely do you see a 2-year-old trotting colt trot his last 3/4 of a mile in 1:23.4. And I was too wide in the last turn at the Meadowlands. So White Tiger, definitely impressive in his qualifier. Obviously, there was a colt qualified 2 qualifiers later named Green Shoe, who they changed his name. He was an extremely expensive yearling, and they changed his name to Green Shoe, and he won the New Jersey final in 53. He qualified in 1:55 last quarter in 27 seconds flat the other day. Impressive horse, and an impressive looking horse. So it's not like White Tiger is going to waltz into the Houghton at 1-5. I don't think he's going to be 8-1. I think he's probably going to be 9-2, 7-2, something like that. But make no mistake, with the right trip and the right position and the right draw, I think that White Tiger's going to turn some heads in New Jersey on Saturday. I hope he does, for sure. I hope he does. So White Tiger was impressive. And another horse that we've been a little sheepish to comment about, solely because we don't have many more, is Swandre the Giant. Brandon Bates, I had made a decision to send Bay Jewel to Brandon Bates, and she made a break in her first start for him, and then qualified by 13 lengths in 2 minutes 5 days later. So clearly Mr. Bates has some talent as a trainer and a driver by the looks of it, and very happy that he has Bay Jewel, and we are the ones that sent him Swandre the Giant. I don't want to take credit for that. His owners wanted to send the horse. I don't know Brandon Bates. I would know him if I backed over him with my car, but he seems like a nice guy. I talked to him on the phone. Clearly an intelligent horseman and a decent driver in his own right. So happy that I have Bay Jewel with him, and obviously happy that he's had Swandre the Giant. This colt is 4 for 4, if I'm not mistaken. 2 miles and 55 under his belt. Realistically, I think they should have taken him to the Houghton, but a long schedule in Indiana, and probably doing right by the horse in the long run, as it is a long season for these babies. So Swandre the Giant is another horse that people should take notice of. I was adding it up the other day. We have horses that are undefeated, colts, babies, that are undefeated in 3 jurisdictions. Sio in Tuscany has never been defeated in Ohio. White Tiger, although he only raced once, so I guess that's a little unfair, but he's never been defeated in Pennsylvania. And Swandre the Giant has never been defeated in Indiana. When you mix that in with all the other horses we have that have been racing, it's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. So that is some of the things that are taking place. We obviously raced 3 colts last night in Georgian Downs. All three of these colts, I wouldn't say were 100% healthy. They were coming off the virus, weren't able to train them very, very hard, but raced very well. Taimel Houdini was beat, what a neck, for winning a gold in 58. Taimel Tulo tried in 57 and finished 3rd. And poor little Screaming Hawk, you know, he's right on the bubble of grassroots and gold. And I let him scream off the car last night. I'll tell you what, for all you out there, you know the Angus Halls, how ornery they can be and hard and difficult. This horse went from a miserable, ignorant animal all winter to just the smartest, kindest, easiest horse to get along with on the track. Like, you settle him now and just give him a second and he drops the bit. Angus Halls just don't do that. And I had the hobbles on him pretty tight last night because he was coming off a break. So I would say being driven hard in the first quarter, having the hobbles on a little tight, took its toll later in the mile, and he finished a mediocre 5th, trotted in 2-1 last quarter in 31 seconds. Another horse that was coming off the virus. So still a very nice colt in his own right. A little up in the air yet. Are we going to put him back in the golds or race him in the grassroots? You know, as we sit here and talk in my car, I'm thinking maybe grassroots. But we'll see. We'll see how his blood comes back. We'll see how he feels the rest of the week. And we'll see what we're going to do with him moving forward. But gold or grassroots, I still think he's a good colt and very proud of what he has become. Also, we have some horses getting ready to qualify. A lot of people got their eyes on Arvika and Autumn Wings, who are just about to make their qualifying miles probably in the next 10 days. It won't be next Friday. I'm gone away next Friday. So it'll likely be the following Tuesday. So I would say a week from Tuesday, we'll qualify these 2 fillies. I plan on training them tomorrow at Mohawk. I'd like to go a mile in 2:2 or 2 minutes with Autumn Wings, and a mile around 2:3, 2:4 with Arvika. And then we will qualify them a week from tomorrow, I would imagine. So that being said, a lot going on at the stable. You thought there was a lot going on before. My God almighty, I think I worked it out between connecting flights and flying. I had 7 flights I made. 1 flight was canceled this weekend. And Wednesday I'm on the move again. Wednesday I'm in Philadelphia for Casanova's Jewel, coming off that impressive mile where he did make a miscue, but still won the race. And then Thursday we have the other 2 boys in Pennsylvania in Stonebridge Simba and Fine Lancer. And then I won't chance it. I'm not flying back home. I'm just going to go right down to New Jersey Friday and stay there Friday and Saturday. So it should be a great weekend. It should be a great week. A lot going on, obviously, both on social media and in the real world. So a lot going on with the stable, a lot happening. We're going to get right into it. I'm going to come back with Kevin's stable, Ricky's stable, Harry's stable, and Jason's stable. Give you a little update about what's going on there. And we're going to talk about a top 10 list. And I haven't made a decision yet what other list I'm going to make. I might just make a top 15 or 20 list. I don't know yet. Anyway, I'll be back with those lists and close it out with talking about all the horses, what they're doing, where they're at, where we want them to be, where they are, and hopefully where they will be. We'll be right back in a minute with everything.